In this second video we're going to have a look in a bit more detail at counting. So it's one of the standard methods of solution, one of these algorithms that programmers just have to hand. So if they ever need to solve a particular problem, for example we need to count something, then they'll pull out this algorithm and they'll use it and adapt it to whatever they want to do. So let's have a little look. So the question is, write an algorithm in pseudocode to count the number of numbers that are equal to 20 in the array. So here is the array. So we've declared it and we've set it up. So I'm going to output the count at the end. We'll have a look at the answer in a second. If you want to pause the video, see what you come up with, and then we'll look at the answer. Okay, so first thing we need is a loop, and that loop needs to go over each element in the array, or the number of times in the array. So you can either count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there are 8 here. So we could say for I assign 1 to 8, or we can just say how long is this array. So it's called scores. So if we say for I assign 1 to the length of scores, that creates a loop that will run in this case 8 times. Next thing we need to do is we just need to see if each element in the array matches the count or not. So it matches the value we're looking for. So we're looking for, see if they're equal to 22. So we need to make a decision. So if we need to make a decision, we use an if statement. So if scores I. So when we first start this loop, I is going to be 1. So scores I will be 12. So is 12 equal to 22? That's the question we're resolving. If it is, we're going to add 1 to the count. If it's not, as in this case, we drop out of the if statement without doing this. Now notice, because we've added a new variable here, we need to declare it at the start. So this will cost you marks in a question where you're answering in pseudocode if you don't declare the variable. But also we need to give it an initial value as well, because we're trying to add 1 to count. Well, at this point, before we actually declare and give count a value, it doesn't have a value. So this will give us an error because count doesn't exist. So that's why it's usually important to give your variable an initial value anyway. So anyway, count is 0. So 0 plus 1 will give us 1. But in this case, when I is equal to 1, it's not equal to the answer is 12 here. That's not equal to 22. So we don't add 1 to the count. Then we go next I. So I now becomes 2. So if scores 2 is equal to 22, so scores 2 is indeed 22. This gives us a true, so we add 1 to the count, and then so on and so forth. And at the end then we we need to output the count. There's the pseudocode. Pause the video now and see if you can create this in Python. And again, once you've paused it, try have a go. If you need some help, you can play it and see the answer, but try and make sure you understand it. Try and do as much as you can without looking at the video first. Okay, so here is the answer. So we've just taken the pseudocode and we've rewritten it in Python. Probably the thing to just remember is, in Python we use equals for assignments. So scores equals that, count equals that. When we want to compare, we use a double equal. So double equals means, is this side the same as this side? Yes or no, true or false? Yeah. Whereas in pseudocode we just use a single equals. That represents compare. Okay. You can extend the code, try and count something else. So play about with it. See if you can add some text, some information, some messages, by way of just helping you develop your coding skills a bit more. Anyway, let's have a look at the next slide. So we're now looking at question 14. Write an algorithm in pseudocode and then Python to count the number of cars car makes equal to Ford in the array. Output the count at the end. So here we have our we've declared our array. I've declared the variable count, and we've given it an initial value. Okay, so pause the video, have a go at writing the pseudocode, and then we'll see how you get on. Okay, so we have the answer here. So for y is 1 to the length of cars, so we want our loop to go however many elements are in the array. If cars I is equal to Ford, because we're trying to count the number of Fords, so if it is Ford, we want to add 1 to the count. If it isn't Ford, then it obviously won't do this. So if the cars I is not equal to Ford, it'll skip the adding 1 to the count. And then we want to do our next I, so we'll keep going around and we'll output the count. Very similar to the previous pseudocode. So pause the video now, because I think the next thing for you to do is to actually have a go at writing this in Python. Okay, so pause the video, have a go, and then come back and look at the answer. So here indeed is the answer. Again, very similar to the previous program, remembering double equals to compare, and that will give us a true or a false. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. So, write an algorithm in pseudocode to enter 10 numbers. Count the number of numbers greater than 5 that are entered, output the count at the end. So this time we want a loop that's going to go around 10 times, but we're not using an array this time. So we're going to input a number, and then we're going to see whether or not that number is greater than 5. So we want our loop to go 10 times. We're going to input a number. I'm going to declare that variable because I've just written it, and I'm going to give it an initial value. And that's a good way to go about this. So just write the code, but as you're encountering variables for the first time, just declare them at the top. Now we've just input the number. If the number is greater than 5, then we want to count it. If it's not greater than 5, then that count won't happen. So we need to now make sure we declare the count and give the count an initial value. So that should start to become a habit now for you. And then we'll end our if statement. We'll do our next I, and that will keep going around. We'll enter a number, we'll see if it's bigger than 5, and we'll count it. And so on until we've done that 10 times. And then we'll output the count to the end. So pause the video now and have a go and see if you can create that in Python. And then come back and we'll see what you've done. So here is the answer for that one. Now this time I want you to have a look at, in Python we use the input command to enter a number, but because we want it to be an integer, because we're going to do this comparison here, is the number bigger than 5, we're going to convert what they've typed into an integer. Okay, so we have done that in class, so you should be quite happy with that. Okay, let's have a look. I think we've got a couple more of these. So there's 2 challenges you'd have a go at. The first one, and I don't expect you to do both of the challenges. If you can do one, that would be great. Have a look at the 2. But anyway, so the first challenge: write an algorithm in pseudocode to enter 10 colors. Count the number of times red is entered. Output the count at the end. If red is entered more than 3 times, output that's a lot of red. So if you can write your pseudocode first, so pause the video, write your pseudocode, look back at what you've done before if you need a bit of a reminder. So pause the video, let's have a look. Okay, so we need our loop to go around 10 times. We're going to input color, so I'm going to declare it and set it to nothing. If color is equal to red, then we're going to add 1 to the count. Right, well I haven't got a declared count, so I'm going to do that up here. I'm going to give count an initial value as well. And I'm going to end my if statement, and that'll just go around happily inputting colors and seeing if they're red and counting them. We're going to output count at the end, and then we're going to do an if. So if count is greater than 3, then we're going to output that message, that's also for red. I think I've run out of room at the bottom here, so we should have our end if here. Okay, and we'll make that F a capital there as well. Right, so have a go at creating this in Python. So pause the video, see if you can bash that code out in Python, test it, and then see how you've got on. So here's the answer to that one. Fairly straightforward, just combining the things that we've been practicing for the last couple of lessons. Okay, so we've got challenge 2 now. Write an algorithm pseudocode, enter 10 numbers, count how many are positive, how many are negative, and then output the results. So if you don't have to do this one if you've done challenge 1. You may have decided to have a go at this one. So I'm just going to pop the algorithm up here. So hopefully you paused the video in time before I did that. So we're declaring some variables, the number that's going to be entered. We've got 2 counts, so we're declaring both of those. setting them all to 0 as well. We're inputting a number, and then we're doing 2 comparisons within the for loop, and then we're outputting the results at the end. So output the number of positives, and underneath that should be output the number of zeros as well. Okay, so pause the video, have a go at doing this in Python if you're having a go at this task, and then we'll have a look at the answer to that one. And there indeed is the answer to that one. Again, very similar, except this time in Python, if we want to do more than one comparison on a variable, we can first do if, and then elif, which would be our else if. Okay, right, thank you very much for having a look at this one. The next video we'll talk about totaling. Thank you.